to be able to just make a choice on your own and just be able to speak for yourself.
This one's wife. With love, Meghan, episode 1.3. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor, and you join me now as we embark on another examination of the first episode of This One's Wife's new cookery programme. She has made truffle popcorn for her guest Daniel Martin and has portrayed this as something that has never been done in the history of ever. And the next line that she comes out with is, "And since we put all of our energy into making those..." What? You got some dried corn. You put it in a bag. You put the bag in a microwave. You waited for nearly 2 minutes. The microwave went ping. You took the bag out, and then you emptied the popcorn into a bowl and added truffle oil. Oh, and a bit of salt. And that's putting all of your energy into it. This demonstrates two things. This one's wife has a very strange idea of industriousness, that she thinks that is putting a lot of energy into it. If you didn't know any better, you would start to think that this was a satirical take on a cookery and crafting show. But we know she hasn't got a sense of humour. We know that she takes herself deadly seriously. But to turn around and basically take dried corn, throw it in a bag, put it in a microwave and add truffle oil and salt and then claim, I feel like I've scaled Everest after all of that. It just demonstrates how deluded this woman is. Furthermore, if it's not the case that she truly thinks that is industriousness on a huge scale, it shows that she just can't help but let her gums flap and come out with any banal nonsense that pops into her head to suggest, and since we put all our energy into making those, but it isn't industrious behaviour doing that. It isn't a huge laborious task. And it demonstrates that she doesn't think before she spouts this crap. This is why we get the fridge magnet platitudes. Because she's so empty and vacuous. When she talks and she thinks that she's being of moment and of importance, because her narcissism makes her think that way, all you end up with is listening to her spouting shite. But as a consequence of all of that industrial activity, she explains that this time, and honestly, this next part truly sums her up. She's exhausted herself making truffle popcorn. So now, since she's used up all her energy, we are just going to put this into a different bag, she explains. And she gives a conspiratorial grin to the person in the room, Michael, and it's peanut butter pretzels. There is no doubt that she has never made jam in her life and that she obtained jam from somebody else because she has the audacity to take pre-purchased peanut butter pretzels and she just empties them from one bag and puts them in another. That's the extent of her ability, her artisan curation. It just demonstrates how absolutely fucking useless she is. And even though I am minutes into this series already, I suspect that that's your defining moment of the quality of what This One's Wife is doing. Taking one thing from a bag and putting it in another. She has no imagination, no spark of creativity, but even worse, she thinks it's okay to share this. She thinks it's okay to give that conspiratorial grin as if to say, ho, cheeky little hack here. Buy somebody else's product, stick it in another bag, make it look like you've created it yourself, which is the plagiarism of this woman writ large. She then explains that she's been eating these forever, I love them, and my mum does too. Bit of triangulation there, dropping in mum, who recently has proven to be rather absent. Next, she's going to tell us about how she's off to prep the guest room. Could you be arsed? As I mentioned before, change the bedding, make sure the room's aired, make sure it's been vacuumed. You might spritz the air with something that smells nice, and that's about it. That'll do them. They don't care. They're going to be getting banjaxed, and they'll just fall asleep in there and snore. Before we know it, it's the next day already. This one's wife has turned up, change of outfit. Now she's wearing all white, for she is a living saint. And this time she's turned her creativity and brilliance to making coffee. Yes, we get a close-up of some coffee granules as this one's wife adds hot water. With that brilliant start and having a chat with Michael about him drinking coffee, she's now slicing cucumber and placing dips. Still no actual cooking taking place. She's creating a crudité platter. But little moments can suddenly take it to something a little more artistic, she tells us. What? Like the little moment of buying somebody else's product and tipping it into another bag? Do you mean that kind of little moment? We're about 10 minutes into the programme. Yeah. Feels like a lifetime, doesn't it? Imagine what it feels like for me watching this shite. Nothing's been elevated by Mint so far. But there's a change of pace. For what is that on the horizon? Is it a megastar, an A-lister? No, it's a little baldy man. It's the makeup guy, Daniel Martin. Daniel arrives. She explained, I wanted to make it colourful and joyful for you. She's talking about her crudité platter, because that's the first thing that you do when you greet your guest, is that you start talking about the ins and outs of your crudité platter. So Daniel has already come to stay, presumably at her house, enjoying the soak in the pink Himalayan bath salts and looking at the flowers and thinking, how lovely, they've really elevated my room, and I've had such a restful night, and I really do feel like my hostess has thought about me from morning till night. And then the first thing he has to do is come to a rented property and start talking about a crudité platter. As I tell you, you'd think this were a satire if you didn't know any better. Daniel, showing that he's really interested in a crudité platter, as we all are, asks, how long did it take to make this? As if it's some kind of fucking painting of the Sistine Chapel. This one's wife turns up the false modesty. Oh, it's just chopping veggies. Just chopping veggies. This is imperfect, but it doesn't need to be perfect. So the freakish eye for detail has gone out of the window already. Daniel then remarks, why doesn't anyone ever present peas like this? They're like green pearls. Oh, fuck off, you arse licker. Nobody would pick up something from the crudité platter and remark, why doesn't anybody present peas like this? They're like green pearls. You just fucking wouldn't do it, would you? And it again demonstrates how this programme is an image of how this one's wife sees the world of hostessing and entertaining, and that it's not people going, oh, I'm enjoying an escape from reality, the threat of World War III, the falling out between world leaders, etc. This is a nice bit of escapism for me, but rather you fucking having it on, talking about peas like they're green pearls. This one's wife, of course, gives a little girly laugh by way of confirmation. Daniel then confesses that this one's wife is a feeder because he always gains £10, to which this one's wife states it's £10 of joy. Fucking shoot me now. We're then told that she's going to be making single skillet spaghetti. Daniel then goes, this one's wife goes, yeah. Daniel's annoyed me within about 30 seconds of appearing on screen. This is some contribution to go and talk about peas like they're green pearls. It is absolutely horrific. This one's wife and Daniel then start cutting some tomatoes. And Daniel cuts himself. Yes. For someone who's supposedly a makeup artist and presumably would be rather dexterous, he manages to cut himself straight away. Don't worry, this provides this one's wife with an opportunity to come to the rescue, stating, but he's an artist, these hands can't be hurt, as she holds him, demonstrating once again that she's full of empathy and support for him. She puts on a band-aid, prompting Daniel to remark, "It's a cool green, so chic." This one's wife explains, Daniel explains, "I can beat your face." What? But I can't cut a tomato, as he would say, or tomato, as I would say. I can beat your face. Is that what you mean when you put makeup on somebody? You beat their face? What a strange turn of phrase. This one's wife is full of advice because Daniel admits that he doesn't have a counter in his New York apartment with his husband or boyfriend, and instead that she says, "Don't put a hot skillet on your lap." It's just full of these brilliant pieces of insight. She then tells us, "Let's boil this water." Ooh, yeah, now we're cooking on gas, as she puts the kettle on a gas stove. She then adds salt and olive oil and garlic to the tomatoes. Daniel handily explains, "I love garlic." This one's wife tells us, "We're friends." Daniel explains, "You've always shown your love through food." She explains, "It's a big love language. I thought your ability to drain a bloke's balls was your love language and stick your tongue up his backside, but hey, what do I know?" They then reminisce about their Suits days, bringing up the past, and Daniel explains that this one's wife reached out to them, presumably Suits directly, because she didn't have representation. Quelle surprise, this one's wife being pushy. She confirms, "Yeah, just an agent. There was no publicist." Next up, the TIG gets mentioned. Another trip down memory lane as the padding continues. We're not actually seeing any cookery so far. We've had bath salts, we've had flowers, we've had her doing some bee stuff, but so far it's unclear as to why. The episode is called Honey, or more accurately, Hello Honey. But the honey hasn't made an appearance so far. Instead, it's been the aforementioned bath salts and flowers, and we've seen her chopping tomatoes. We've seen her using somebody else's peanut butter pretzels. We've seen her making popcorn, but no actual proper cooking taking place so far for a program that's meant to be something about cookery. But now we're talking about the TIG as they desperately pad out this awful, awful material. Daniel explains that she was doing both the TIG in between her work, highlighting once again that we are in the presence of a titan of industriousness, that she is an absolute megastar for being able to walk and chew gum. Now, as I explained earlier, one's not expecting incisive political discussions or debating the outcomes for mankind or philosophical considerations. These programs are invariably light and fluffy, but at least with that, they can be interesting and humorous. You get to learn something about the guest. You get to laugh at the interaction. But here, Daniel's just here to make this one's wife look good, which of course is typical for the narcissist. He is really just the Horatio to Hamlet, whereby he's a sounding board who makes observations now and again about the brilliantness and wonderfulness of this one's wife, who just keeps punctuating the script with talking about moments and joy. We're probably about 15 minutes or so into this. Yeah, there's still that much to go. And already, just telling you what's going on highlights the absence of anything of real substance. But instead, what it does is it provides such a fantastic platform for once again confirming how banal and empty and uninteresting this one's wife is, that this show doesn't uplift you. It isn't joyous. It isn't finding wonder in every moment. It's sat there rolling your eyes, slapping your head and thinking, thank God I've got a fork to stick in my thigh to keep me awake. Well, if you're managing to stay awake, we can continue this debacle in episode 1.4. See you there.